The millionaire just wanted to know why his maid missed work. What he found broke his heart. Adrian Westbrook had seen a lot in his 38 years. He'd built an empire from nothing, navigated boardrooms filled with sharks, and made decisions that affected thousands of lives. But standing outside a crumbling apartment building on the wrong side of town, his hand raised to knock on a peeling door, he realized he'd never been more afraid of what he might find on the other side. The Harrington estate was always quiet in the mornings. Staff moved through the halls like whispers, efficient and invisible. But that particular Tuesday morning felt different. Claire Donovan, the new maid who'd started just 3 months ago, had never missed a single day of work. Not one. She arrived early, left late, and moved through the mansion with a gentleness that made even the hardest surfaces seem softer. She never complained, never asked for anything, and when she smiled, it never quite reached her eyes. Adrian had noticed. He noticed a lot of things about Claire that he probably shouldn't have. The way she wore long sleeves even in summer. The way she winced when lifting anything heavier than a feather. The way she actually flinched, whenever a phone notification sounded anywhere in the room. And the sadness, God, the sadness that lived behind those warm brown eyes, the kind of sadness that came from surviving things no one should ever have to survive. So, when Mrs. Chen, the head housekeeper, mentioned that Claire hadn't shown up that morning, something cold gripped Adrian's chest. "She probably overslept, sir," Mrs. Chen had said, her tone casual, unbothered. But Adrian couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Terribly, horribly wrong. He'd made a decision then that surprised even himself. He was going to check on her, personally. Now, standing outside her apartment door in a neighborhood where his car probably cost more than the entire building, Adrian knocked. Once, twice. No answer. Just silence pressing against his eardrums like a warning. He knocked again, harder this time. "Claire, it's Adrian Westbrook. Are you all right?" Still nothing. He turned to leave, pulling his phone out to call someone. The police, maybe, or a welfare check when he heard it. A sound so small he almost missed it. A muffled sob. His heart stopped. Then footsteps, hurried and uneven, like someone was limping. The door opened a crack, and what Adrian saw in that crack shattered something inside him he didn't even know could break. Claire stood there, her face half hidden in shadow, but even in the dim light, he could see it. The swelling around her left eye, the split in her bottom lip, crusted with dried blood, the dark purple bruise blooming across her cheekbone like some grotesque flower. She immediately tried to turn her face away, her hand flying up to cover the damage. "Mr. Westbrook," she whispered, her voice hoarse and broken. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to miss work. I just..." "Claire." His voice came out softer than he'd ever heard it, gentler than he knew he was capable of. "Who did this to you?" She shook her head rapidly, too rapidly, panic flooding her eyes. "No one. I just tripped. I'm so clumsy. I fell down the stairs and..." "Claire." He said her name again, and this time she stopped. Stopped lying. Stopped pretending. Stopped holding herself together. Her shoulders began to shake. Adrian gently pushed the door open wider, and what he saw inside made his blood run cold. The small apartment was a disaster. A broken picture frame lay on the floor, glass scattered like deadly confetti, an overturned chair, a lamp with a shattered bulb, and the smell stale alcohol hanging in the air like a ghost of violence. Then he saw it, a torn wedding photograph lying near the couch, half of it ripped away, leaving only Claire's smiling face and a man's hand gripping her shoulder too tightly. Even in the photo, even in what should have been a happy memory, there was possession in that grip, ownership, control. Adrian's jaw clenched, not with anger, well, yes, with anger, but with something deeper, something protective and fierce and completely foreign to a man who'd spent his life building walls instead of bridges. "Please, sir," Claire whispered, tears spilling down her bruised cheeks. "I didn't want to miss work, I swear. I couldn't walk this morning, but I'm fine now. I can come in tomorrow. I promise I won't let this happen again." "Stop." She froze. "Stop apologizing," Adrian said quietly. "Stop making excuses. And please, for the love of God, stop calling me sir right now." Her breath hitched. He stepped closer, careful not to crowd her, not to make her feel trapped the way she clearly had been the night before. "Tell me what happened," he said. "The truth." For a long moment, she just stared at him. Then, slowly, like a dam finally breaking after holding back an ocean, the truth came pouring out. My ex-husband came last night, she whispered. The words hung between them, heavy and terrible. He found out I got a new job, a good one, with good pay, and he said I didn't deserve it. He said I didn't deserve anything good. Her voice cracked. He took my phone so I couldn't call anyone. He locked the door from the outside. I only got out when he left this morning to go to work. Adrian felt something white-hot flash through his chest. Rage, pure, undiluted rage. But he kept his voice calm, kept his face neutral, because Claire didn't need his anger right now. She needed safety. Where is he now? Adrian asked. At work, I think. He's a contractor. He usually doesn't come back until evening. And when he comes back, Claire's eyes filled with fresh tears. I don't know. Sometimes he's sorry. Sometimes he brings flowers. Sometimes. She didn't finish. She didn't have to. Adrian made a decision in that moment. A decision that would change both of their lives forever, though neither of them knew it yet. Pack your things, Claire. She looked up, confusion replacing the fear in her eyes. What? Pack your things, he repeated, his voice firm but gentle. You're not staying here. You're coming with me. No. She shook her head violently. No, Mr. Westbrook. I can't. I can't impose on you like that. I can't be a burden. You're not a burden. He said it with such finality that she stopped mid-sentence. You're not a burden, he repeated, softer this time. You're a person who deserves to be safe, and right now, you're not safe here. But I have nowhere else to go. I don't have family and my friends. He made me stop talking to them years ago. Of course he did. Isolation was always part of the playbook. Cut off her support system, make her dependent, make her believe she had nowhere to run. Adrian had seen it before in documentaries, read about it in articles, but seeing it in person, seeing it happening to someone he actually knew, someone who made his coffee every morning with a sad smile, made it real in a way that hollowed him out. You have somewhere to go, Adrian said quietly. The estate has more rooms than I know what to do with. You'll stay there until we figure out a more permanent solution. But people will talk. Your reputation. My reputation has survived much worse than helping someone in need. Pack your things, Claire. Please. The please did it. She'd probably expected him to order her around, to treat her like the staff, like someone who didn't have a choice. But he'd said please, like she was an equal, like she mattered. Slowly, she nodded. Before we continue, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from and what time it is. And if you love emotional stories like this, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss one. Claire moved through the apartment like a ghost, gathering her belongings. It didn't take long. She didn't have much. A small duffel bag of clothes, all of them worn and faded. A toothbrush. A single photograph of a woman who must have been her mother, based on the resemblance. No jewelry. No keepsakes. No signs of a life fully lived. Only a life survived. Adrian watched from the doorway, his heart breaking with every item she carefully folded and placed in the bag. How had it come to this? How had this vibrant, kind woman been reduced to owning so little, to expecting so little, to believing she deserved so little? When she was done, she stood in the middle of the apartment, clutching the duffel bag to her chest like a shield. That's everything, she said quietly. Everything. A whole life packed into a single bag. Adrian wanted to say something profound, something comforting, but words felt inadequate. So instead, he simply nodded and gestured toward the door. Let's go. They walked down the narrow, dingy hallway toward the stairs. Claire limped slightly, favoring her right leg, and Adrian had to clench his fists to keep from asking more questions about what that monster had done to her. Not now. There would be time for questions later. Right now, he just needed to get her somewhere safe. His car was parked at the curb, sleek and black, and completely out of place in this neighborhood. A few people were watching from windows, curious and suspicious. Adrian didn't care. He opened the passenger door for Claire, and she hesitated. I'm getting your car dirty, she whispered, looking down at her worn sneakers. I don't care about the car, Claire. Get in. She did, slowly, like she was afraid the seat might reject her. Adrian walked around to the driver's side, slid behind the wheel, and started the engine. The drive back to the estate was silent. Not the comfortable kind of silence, but the heavy kind, thick with unspoken trauma and fear. Claire sat pressed against the passenger door, her hands twisted together in her lap, her eyes darting to every car that passed them. Especially the trucks, Adrian noticed. He noticed everything. He drives a truck, Adrian said quietly, not a question. Claire nodded, a barely perceptible movement. A red one. If I see a red truck, I'll run it off the road, Adrian said, and he was only half joking. Claire's lips twitched. Not quite a smile, but close. It was something. They drove through the city, leaving behind the rundown neighborhoods and entering the tree-lined streets where old money lived quietly behind gates and hedges. The Harrington estate sat at the end of a long, winding driveway, 3 stories of classic architecture, surrounded by gardens that looked like they'd been stolen from a fairy tale. When they pulled up to the front entrance, Claire stared up at the mansion with wide eyes. "I've only ever seen the kitchen and the staff areas," she whispered. "Well, you're not staying in the staff areas," Adrian said firmly. He got out, walked around, and opened her door before she could protest. Mrs. Chen was waiting at the entrance, her face a mask of professional concern. "Mr. Westbrook, we were worried when you—" She stopped when she saw Claire's face. To her credit, Mrs. Chen didn't gasp or stare. She simply nodded once, understanding flashing in her eyes. "Miss Claire," she said warmly, "welcome home." Home? Claire's eyes filled with tears again, and Adrian realized she probably hadn't had a home, a real home, in a very long time. "Mrs. Chen, could you please prepare the guest suite in the East Wing?" Adrian asked. "The East Wing?" "Mrs. Chen repeated, surprise flickering across her face. That was where Adrian's personal quarters were. The guest suite there was reserved for family and close friends, not staff. "Yes," Adrian said firmly. "The East Wing?" Mrs. Chen nodded slowly. "Of course, sir. I'll have it ready within the hour. Thank you. And could you also call Dr. Morrison? Tell him I need him to come by this afternoon. It's urgent." "Right away, sir." Mrs. Chen disappeared into the house, and Adrian gently placed a hand on Claire's back, guiding her inside. She moved like she was walking through a dream, her eyes taking in the grand foyer with its sweeping staircase and crystal chandelier. "This is too much," she whispered. "I shouldn't be here." "You should absolutely be here," Adrian countered. "Come on, let me show you your room." He led her up the stairs, down a quiet hallway lined with paintings and soft lighting, and stopped in front of a door at the end. He opened it. The guest suite was spacious and warm, decorated in soft creams and golds. A large 4-poster bed dominated the room, piled high with pillows. French doors led out to a private balcony overlooking the gardens. There was a sitting area with a fireplace, a walk-in closet, and an ensuite bathroom with a soaking tub that looked like it belonged in a spa. Claire stood frozen in the doorway, staring. "I can't," she breathed. This is too much." "It's a guest room," Adrian said simply. "And you're my guest. Please, Claire, let yourself have this, just for now." She turned to look at him, tears streaming down her bruised face. "Why are you being so kind to me?" The question hit him harder than he expected. "Because I see you," he wanted to say. "Because you make the best coffee I've ever had, and you always remember that I take it black with 1 sugar. Because you apologized last week when you bumped into a chair. Because I've watched you move through this house like you're trying not to take up space, like you're trying to be invisible, and it breaks something in me every single time." But he didn't say any of that. Instead, he said, "Because you deserve kindness, Claire, and I think you've gone far too long without it." She let out a sob, covering her mouth with her hand. Adrian stepped back, giving her space. "I'll leave you to rest. Dr. Morrison will be here soon to check on you. Mrs. Chen will bring you anything you need. And, Claire," she looked up at him, her eyes red and swollen, "you're safe here, I promise." He left before she could respond, closing the door gently behind him. As he walked down the hallway, he pulled out his phone and dialed his lawyer. "David, it's Adrian. I need you to prepare a restraining order. Immediately. If this story is touching your heart, show some love with a like. It really helps us continue sharing these powerful stories." Dr. Morrison arrived an hour later. A kind-faced man in his 60s who'd been the Westbrook family physician for decades. Adrian met him at the door and explained the situation in low, tense tones. Dr. Morrison's face darkened. "I'll take care of her," he said simply. Adrian wanted to go upstairs with him, to make sure Claire was okay, but he forced himself to stay downstairs. This wasn't about him. Claire needed privacy, needed to be examined and treated without her employer hovering. So he waited in his study, staring at legal documents without really seeing them, until Dr. Morrison came back down an hour later. "How is she?" Adrian asked immediately. Dr. Morrison sighed, setting his medical bag down. "Physically, she'll heal. Bruised ribs, a sprained wrist, multiple contusions. Nothing broken, thank God, but she's in significant pain. I've given her something for it and left instructions for care." "And emotionally?" Dr. Morrison's expression grew even more serious. "That will take much longer. Adrian, I've been a doctor for 40 years, and I can tell you with certainty that woman has been living in a nightmare. The injuries I saw today weren't from a one-time incident. They're layered. Old bruises beneath new ones. Healed fractures. Signs of prolonged abuse." Adrian's hands clenched into fists. "How long?" "Years, I'd guess. Maybe the entire marriage." Adrian closed his eyes, nausea rolling through him. All this time she'd been coming to work, cleaning his house, serving his meals, and going home to that. And he hadn't known. How had he not known? "I've given her my personal number, Doctor," Morrison continued. "Told her to call me any time, day or night, if she needs anything. I've also recommended a therapist I know who specializes in trauma. But Adrian? Yes, she needs stability right now. Consistency. A safe place where she knows she won't be hurt. Can you provide that?" "Yes," Adrian said without hesitation. "For as long as she needs it." Dr. Morrison nodded, satisfied. "Good, because right now, you might be the only person in the world she trusts." After the doctor left, Adrian stood in his study for a long time, staring out the window at the gardens. He thought about Claire upstairs, probably scared and confused and wondering what came next. He thought about the man who'd done this to her, who was probably at work right now, oblivious to the fact that he'd just lost his favorite punching bag. And Adrian thought about what he was going to do about it. Because this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The first few days were strange. Claire barely left her room. Mrs. Chen brought her meals on trays, and Adrian made sure to give her space, to let her adjust and heal without pressure. But he found himself listening for her, the soft sound of her door opening. Footsteps in the hallway. Any sign that she was okay. On the third day, he saw her. He was working in his study when he glanced out the window and saw a figure in the garden. Claire. She was wearing clothes that Mrs. Chen must have found for her soft jeans and a sweater that actually fit, and she was standing in front of the rose bushes, just staring at them. Adrian watched as she reached out and gently touched a bloom, her fingers so careful, so reverent. Then she started to cry. Not the harsh, broken sobs from the apartment. These were quiet tears, the kind that came from relief and exhaustion and the slow, painful process of realizing you might actually be safe. Adrian wanted to go to her, wanted to tell her it would be okay, but he stayed at the window, giving her this moment of privacy, this moment to feel without being watched. When she finally went back inside, Adrian returned to his desk, but he couldn't focus on work. All he could think about was how to help her, how to make sure she never had to go back to that apartment, to that life, to that man. His lawyer called that afternoon. "The restraining order has been filed," David said. "It should be approved within 48 hours. I've also taken the liberty of having her apartment lease transferred to your name so she doesn't lose her security deposit or face eviction. The landlord was very understanding when I explained the situation." "Good," Adrian said. "Thank you, David. There's one more thing," David continued, his tone careful. "If her ex-husband tries to contest this or causes any trouble, we'll need documentation, police reports, medical records, photographs. Do you think she'd be willing to provide that?" Adrian thought about Claire, about how hard it had been for her just to tell him what happened, asking her to relive it, to document it, to make it official. That would be asking a lot. "I'll talk to her," Adrian said, "but I won't push. This has to be her decision." "Understood, I'll be on standby." That evening, Adrian knocked softly on Claire's door. "Come in," came her quiet voice. He opened the door to find her sitting on the window seat, looking out at the gardens. She turned when he entered, and he was relieved to see the swelling in her face had gone down significantly. The bruises were still there, dark and angry, but healing. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Better," she said softly. "Dr. Morrison's medication is helping, and Mrs. Chen has been so kind. She brought me tea this morning without me even asking." Adrian smiled. "Mrs. Chen is good at knowing what people need before they ask." Claire nodded, then looked down at her hands. "Mr. Westbrook, I need to thank you for everything. I don't know how I'll ever repay you." "You don't need to repay me, Claire. And please, call me Adrian." She blinked. I don't think I can do that. It doesn't feel right." "Why not?" "Because you're my employer. Because there's a hierarchy. And You're not my maid right now," Adrian interrupted gently. "Right now, you're a person who needed help, and I'm a person who was able to give it. That's all. No hierarchy, no titles, just two people." She studied him for a long moment, something shifting in her eyes. "Adrian," she finally said, testing the name on her tongue. It sounded good. Too good. He cleared his throat. "I need to talk to you about something, and I want you to know that there's no pressure. You can say no, and nothing will change. You'll still be safe here." She tensed. "What is it?" "My lawyer has filed for a restraining order against your ex-husband. It should be approved within the next 2 days, which means, legally, he won't be allowed to come near you." Claire's eyes widened. You did that?" "Yes, but if he tries to fight it, or if he violates it, it would help to have documentation, police reports, medical records from previous incidents, anything that establishes a pattern." She went very still. "You want me to report him?" "I want you to be protected," Adrian said carefully. "But I know that's a huge step. I know it's scary. So if you're not ready, that's okay. We'll find another way." Claire was silent for a long time, staring out the window. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "I tried to leave him once before, 2 years ago. I went to a friend's house, and he found me. He told me if I ever tried to leave again, he'd make sure I regretted it. And then he showed me exactly what that regret would look like." Adrian's chest constricted. "I'm so sorry, Claire. I stopped trying after that," she continued, tears sliding down her cheeks. "I just survived. Went to work, came home, tried not to make him angry. But I was never good enough at it. There was always something. Dinner was too cold, or I was too quiet, or I smiled at the wrong person. There was always a reason." "There's never a reason," Adrian said fiercely. "There is never a reason for someone to hurt you like that. Never." She looked at him then, really looked at him, and something in her expression cracked open. "I'll do it," she said. "I'll file the police report. I'll give them everything. Because you're right. I can't keep living like this. I can't keep being afraid." Pride swelled in Adrian's chest. "You're incredibly brave." She shook her head. "I'm not brave. I'm just tired of being scared." "That's the same thing," Adrian said softly. The next day, Adrian drove Claire to the police station. She was quiet the whole way, her hands twisted in her lap, but she didn't ask to turn back. The detective who took her statement was a woman named Officer Reyes, and she was patient and kind, never rushing Claire, never making her feel like she was wasting their time. Adrian waited outside, pacing the hallway like an expectant father, until Claire emerged 2 hours later, looking exhausted but lighter somehow. "It's done," she said simply. "How do you feel?" "Like I can breathe for the first time in years." They drove back to the estate in comfortable silence, and when they arrived, Claire turned to him. "Thank you," she said, "for coming with me, for not making me do it alone." "You'll never have to do anything alone again," Adrian said, and he meant it. Over the following weeks, something shifted. Claire started coming out of her room more. She joined the staff for meals in the kitchen, and slowly, her smiles became more genuine. She laughed at Mrs. Chen's stories. She helped the gardener plant new bulbs. She sat in the library and read books, actual books, for pleasure instead of just surviving each day. And Adrian watched. He watched her transform from the broken, scared woman he'd found in that apartment into someone stronger, someone who was remembering who she'd been before the world tried to break her. One evening, he found her in the garden again, this time sitting on a bench beneath the willow tree. He approached slowly, not wanting to startle her. "Mind if I join you?" She looked up, surprised, then smiled. "Of course." He sat beside her, and they were quiet for a while, just listening to the evening birdsong. "I've been thinking," Claire said eventually. "About what?" "About what comes next. I can't stay here forever, hiding. I need to build a life, a real one." "What would that look like?" Adrian asked. She was quiet for a moment, then said, "I always wanted to be a teacher. Before I got married, I was in college studying education, but I dropped out when things got bad." "You could go back," Adrian said. "Finish your degree." She shook her head. I don't have the money for that, and I'd need to work, and I don't know how I'd manage both. What if you didn't have to worry about money? She frowned. What do you mean? What if I helped you, paid for your tuition, let you live here while you study? You could work part-time if you wanted to, or not at all, whatever you needed to make it work. Claire stared at him. Adrian, that's too much. I can't let you do that. Why not? Because I've already taken so much from you. Your time, your money, your home. You haven't taken anything, Adrian interrupted. I've given freely. And honestly, Claire, having you here has been good for me. This house is too big and too quiet, and having someone else in it, someone who appreciates it, who makes it feel less like a museum and more like a home, that's worth more than tuition money. She looked down at her hands, tears gathering in her eyes. I don't understand why you're being so kind to me. Because you deserve kindness, Adrian said simply, and because somewhere along the way, you stopped being just an employee to me. You became someone I care about. The words hung between them, heavy with meaning neither of them was quite ready to examine. Finally, Claire whispered, Thank you for everything. I'll find a way to repay you someday. You already have, Adrian said, by letting me help, by trusting me. That's more than enough. 2 months passed. 2 months of Claire slowly coming back to life. She enrolled in community college to finish her teaching degree, attending classes 3 days a week while working part-time in the estate's library, cataloguing Adrian's extensive book collection. It wasn't charity work, Adrian made sure she understood that. He needed the library organized, and she was perfect for the job, meticulous and careful with the old volumes. She insisted on earning her keep, and he didn't have the heart to tell her that her presence alone was payment enough. The bruises faded, the physical wounds healed. But Adrian noticed the other things, the invisible scars that would take much longer to disappear, the way she still flinched when someone moved too quickly, the nightmares that sometimes woke her in the middle of the night. He'd hear her crying through the walls, the way she apologized for everything, even things that didn't require apology. But there were good days too. Days when she laughed at something Mrs. Chen said, the sound bright and genuine. Days when she brought Adrian coffee while he worked, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Days when he'd find her curled up in the library window seat, completely absorbed in a book, her face peaceful. Those were the days that made Adrian realize something terrifying. He was falling for her, not the dramatic, sudden kind of falling, the slow kind, the dangerous kind, the kind that crept up on you until one day you looked at someone and realized they'd become essential to your existence. He tried to ignore it. She was vulnerable, healing, rebuilding her life. The last thing she needed was her benefactor developing feelings for her. It would be inappropriate, possibly predatory, definitely complicated. So he kept his distance, maintained professional boundaries, told himself he was just being a good person, helping someone in need. But then there was the night of the storm. It started with thunder rumbling in the distance, growing closer with each passing hour. Adrian was working late in his study when the rain began, sheets of it battering the windows. Then the power went out. The entire estate plunged into darkness. Adrian grabbed his phone, using its flashlight to navigate to the hallway where emergency candles were kept. He was lighting them when he heard it. A small, terrified sound coming from Claire's room. He knocked softly. Claire, are you all right? No answer, just rapid breathing. Claire, I'm coming in. He opened the door to find her pressed against the headboard, her knees drawn to her chest, trembling. Hey, he said softly, approaching slowly. It's just a storm. You're safe. He used to lock me in the basement during storms, she whispered, her voice childlike with fear. He said it built character, sometimes for hours, in the dark. Adrian's heart shattered. You're not in a basement, he said gently. You're here, in a room with windows and doors that you control. And I'm right here. I won't let anything hurt you. She looked at him, tears streaming down her face. Can you stay? Just until the storm passes. Every logical part of his brain screamed that this was a bad idea, but he couldn't leave her like this. Of course. He sat in the chair by her window, keeping a respectful distance, and they talked about everything and nothing. She told him about her mother, who died when Claire was 19, how she'd met her ex-husband at her mother's funeral, how he'd seemed kind and supportive, how that kindness had slowly twisted into control. I thought I needed someone to take care of me, she said quietly. I was so lost after my mum died. and he was there, solid and certain. I didn't realize until too late that what he wanted wasn't a partner. He wanted someone he could shape and control. That's not love, Adrian said. I know that now. But for a long time, I thought maybe it was. Maybe love was supposed to hurt. Maybe I was supposed to make myself smaller to make him feel bigger. You're not small, Claire, you never were. He just made you believe you were. She looked at him then, really looked at him, and something shifted in the air between them. You see me differently than anyone ever has, she whispered. How do I see you? Like I'm whole, not broken, not damaged, just me. That's because you are whole, Adrian said softly. You survived something that would have destroyed most people. That doesn't make you broken, it makes you strong. The storm raged outside, but inside, in that candlelit room, something else was building. Something neither of them could name yet. Something that felt like hope. The next morning, Adrian found Claire in the kitchen, helping Mrs. Chen prepare breakfast. She looked up when he entered, and their eyes met. Neither of them said anything about the night before, but something had changed. Some invisible wall had come down. Over the following weeks, they fell into a new rhythm. Coffee together in the mornings before Claire left for class. Dinners where she'd tell him about her studies and he'd share stories about his business. Evenings in the library where they'd read side by side in comfortable silence. It felt domestic. It felt right. It felt terrifying. Adrian's assistant, Jennifer, noticed. You're different, she said one afternoon when Claire had just left the study after bringing Adrian lunch. What do you mean? Happier? Lighter? You smile more. Jennifer paused. She's good for you. It's not like that, Adrian said automatically. Jennifer raised an eyebrow. Isn't it? She's been through hell, Jen. The last thing she needs is me complicating her recovery with feelings. Have you considered that maybe your feelings aren't a complication? Maybe they're exactly what both of you need. Adrian didn't answer, because he didn't know how to. 3 months after that terrible Tuesday morning, Adrian's lawyer called. We have a problem, David said, his tone grim. Adrian's stomach dropped. What kind of problem? Claire's ex-husband violated the restraining order. He was spotted near the community college where she takes classes. Campus security detained him, and he's been arrested. Ice flooded Adrian's veins. Is Claire safe? She's fine. She wasn't there when it happened, it was her day off. But Adrian, this is serious. He's escalating. The judge has agreed to extend the restraining order and add additional penalties. But what? He made threats. Against Claire and against you. The police are taking it seriously, but I think you need to increase security at the estate, just as a precaution. Adrian was already moving, already planning. Do it, whatever it takes. And David? I want him prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Already on it. When Adrian hung up, he found Mrs. Chen standing in the doorway, her face pale. I heard, she said quietly. Is Miss Claire in danger? Not while she's here, Adrian said firmly. But we're going to make sure she stays safe. I need you to let the rest of the staff know if anyone sees anything suspicious, anything at all. They call security immediately. Mrs. Chen nodded. That girl has been through enough. We'll protect her. Adrian found Claire in the library, studying at the large oak table, completely unaware of the threat circling closer. He didn't want to scare her, but she deserved to know. Claire, can we talk? She looked up, instantly sensing something was wrong. What happened? He told her everything, watching as the color drained from her face. He came to my school, she whispered. He was near the campus. He never got close to any buildings, and security stopped him immediately. She stood up, pacing, her hands shaking. This is my fault. I brought this danger to your home, to your staff. Stop, Adrian said firmly. This is not your fault. He's the one making the choice to violate the law. He's the one who can't accept that he lost his control over you. But what if he hurts someone? What if he comes here and... Adrian stepped in front of her, gently taking her shoulders. I won't let him hurt you. I won't let him hurt anyone. Do you understand me? You're safe here. She looked up at him, tears pooling in her eyes. Why are you doing all of this? Why do you care so much? The question hung between them. Adrian knew he should give a diplomatic answer, something about human decency and doing the right thing. But standing there, with her looking at him like he was the only solid thing in a world that kept trying to knock her down, he couldn't lie anymore. Because you matter to me, Claire. More than I probably should admit, more than is probably appropriate. But it's the truth. Her breath caught. "Adrian, you don't have to say anything," he continued quickly. "I know the timing is terrible. I know you're still healing, and the last thing you need is—" She kissed him. It was soft and tentative and tasted like hope. When she pulled back, her eyes were wide with surprise at her own boldness. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I shouldn't have." "Don't apologize," Adrian said, his voice rough. "Please don't apologize for that." "I don't know what I'm doing," she admitted. "I don't know if I'm ready for whatever this is. But I know that when I'm with you, I feel safe. I feel seen. I feel like maybe I could be happy again." "You can be," Adrian said softly. "You deserve to be." "So do you," Claire whispered. They stood there, foreheads touching, neither one willing to move away, neither one sure what came next. But for the first time in longer than either could remember, the future didn't feel quite so frightening. It felt like possibility. That evening, Adrian implemented new security measures. Guards at the gate, cameras throughout the property, emergency protocols for the staff. Claire protested, feeling guilty about the expense and disruption, but Adrian wouldn't hear it. Her safety was worth any cost. That night, as Adrian lay in bed staring at the ceiling, he thought about that kiss. Brief as it had been, it had changed everything. There was no going back to simple employer-employee boundaries, no pretending she was just someone he was helping out of obligation. She'd become essential, and that terrified him almost as much as the threat lurking beyond the estate gates. Because caring about someone meant they could hurt you. Not intentionally, perhaps, but life had a way of taking things away, and Adrian had lost enough. But looking at Claire, seeing her strength and resilience and gradual healing, he realized something. Maybe losing her would hurt, but never having her at all would hurt more. The next week passed in a strange state of heightened awareness. Security remained tight, and Claire's ex-husband remained in jail pending trial. But within the estate, something was blooming. Touches that lingered a moment too long. Looks that communicated things neither was ready to say out loud. An awareness of each other that was both thrilling and terrifying. Mrs. Chen watched with knowing eyes but said nothing, only smiled when she caught them standing a little too close in the kitchen. One afternoon, Claire came back from class excited, practically vibrating with energy. "Adrian," she called, finding him in his study. "You'll never believe what happened." He looked up from his laptop, immediately charmed by her enthusiasm. "Tell me." "I got an A on my education theory paper, and Professor Williams said it was one of the best analyses she'd read in years. She thinks I should consider graduate school eventually, maybe even teaching at the college level someday." Pride swelled in Adrian's chest. "That's incredible, Claire. I'm so proud of you." She beamed, then without thinking, threw her arms around him in a hug. Adrian froze for half a second, then hugged her back, breathing in the scent of her shampoo, feeling the warmth of her body against his. When she pulled back, her cheeks were flushed. "Sorry, I'm excited." "Don't apologize for being excited," Adrian said softly. "You earned this." "I couldn't have done it without you," she said. "Without you giving me this chance, this space to heal and grow. A year ago, I thought my life was over. Now I'm getting straight A's and thinking about graduate school and—" She trailed off, looking at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "And?" he prompted, "and feeling things I didn't think I'd ever feel again." The air between them grew thick. "Claire," Adrian said carefully, "I need you to know something. I meant what I said before. You matter to me, but I don't want to rush you into anything. You're still healing, still rebuilding your life. If what's happening between us is too much, too fast, tell me. We can slow down." She stepped closer, reaching up to touch his face. "What if I don't want to slow down?" she whispered. "What if I want to feel alive again, to take chances, to see where this goes?" "Then we take it one day at a time," Adrian said, covering her hand with his. "No pressure, no expectations, just us figuring it out together." "Together," she repeated, smiling. "I like the sound of that." He kissed her then, properly this time, and it felt like coming home. 4 months after Adrian had knocked on that apartment door, Claire sat in a courtroom watching her ex-husband get sentenced, violating a restraining order, making terroristic threats, and a list of other charges that, combined, meant he'd be in prison for at least 3 years. Adrian sat beside her, his hand holding hers. When the judge's gavel came down, Claire let out a breath she'd been holding for what felt like forever. It was over. Really, truly over. Outside the courthouse, she turned to Adrian. "I'm free," she said, wonder in her voice. I'm actually free. You always were, Adrian said softly. You just needed time to realize it. That night, back at the estate, they celebrated quietly, just the two of them, a bottle of wine and a fire in the library. What happens now? Claire asked, curled up beside Adrian on the couch. What do you want to happen? She thought about it, really thought about it. I want to finish my degree. I want to become a teacher. I want to help kids who feel powerless learn that they have strength inside them. You'll be an amazing teacher, Adrian said, and I want, she hesitated, I want to see where this goes, with us, if that's what you want too. Adrian pulled her closer. That's exactly what I want. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the fire, both of them thinking about how far they'd come. From that terrible morning to this peaceful evening, from broken to healing, from alone to together. 6 months after that first knock on her apartment door, Claire stood in front of a classroom full of student teachers, giving her first practice lesson. Adrian had taken the afternoon off to watch, sitting in the back of the room like a proud parent. She was magnificent, confident and warm and completely in her element. When the lesson ended and the students filed out, Claire walked over to him, her face glowing. So, how did I do? You were perfect, Adrian said honestly. Those kids are going to be lucky to have you as a teacher. She smiled, then looked out the window at the schoolyard beyond. A year ago, I thought my life was over, she said quietly. I thought I'd never be more than what? He said I was worthless, stupid, lucky that anyone would put up with me. And now, Adrian prompted, now I know that sometimes the worst moments of our lives lead us to exactly where we're meant to be, to the people who help us become who we were always supposed to be. She turned to look at him, her eyes bright. Thank you, Adrian, for seeing me when I couldn't see myself, for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself, for refusing to let me face my darkness alone. You don't need to thank me, Adrian said, taking her hand. You did the hard work. You chose to heal. You chose to fight. You chose to build a new life. I just held the door open. You did more than that, Claire insisted. You showed me what real kindness looks like, what real love looks like. Love. The word hung between them, new and fragile and true. Is that what this is? Adrian asked softly. Love? Claire smiled, reaching up to touch his face. I think it might be. Is that okay? More than okay, Adrian said, pulling her close. It's everything. They stood there in that empty classroom, holding each other, two people who'd found healing and hope in the most unexpected place. And outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. A new day ending, a new chapter beginning. Together, the cold edge of winter faded slowly, reluctant to release its grip. By the time Claire's classes were in full swing, the trees outside Adrian's estate were budding fragile green hope after months of grey. Spring, Mrs. Chen insisted, was for new beginnings. Claire believed her. Every morning she drank tea by her window and watched the light return, growing braver day by day. It was a slow transformation. Some mornings anxiety pressed against her ribs, quickening her breath as she dressed. There were still nightmares, nights she woke sweating, head pounding with memories she wanted to forget. But there were better days too. Adrian always noticed both. On the rough days, he'd let her be, offering a soft check-in, then space. On the good days, he'd make time, intentionally present over coffee, encouraging her efforts with genuine pride. One Thursday morning, Claire brought him her transcript, the first A in an academic subject since her mother died. He read the email twice. You did this. You, Adrian said quietly. A shy smile bloomed on her lips. I almost quit after the first midterm. I was sure I'd never get out from under my own head. He met her eyes. I'm glad you stayed. The future deserves someone like you in it. He meant it, and it landed with weight, with a warmth she'd been missing for so long. But healing is not linear. Some wounds do not close in a straight line. After class one afternoon, as Claire packed up her books, she felt eyes on her, her heart hammered. For a split second, she was back in that apartment, surrounded by the scent of stale alcohol and fear. She spun a nervous reflex, but it was only a classmate, lingering, waiting to ask about homework. Claire forced a smile, steadying herself. Still, as she walked to her car, she found herself checking the shadows, the edges of the parking lot. When she got home, Adrian was in his office. He noticed the tightness in her shoulders, the quiet way she moved. "Tough day?" he asked, not pushing. Claire hesitated, then sat across from him, clutching her bag. "Sometimes I think I'm moving forward, and sometimes I feel stuck, like I'll never really get out." He leaned forward, elbows on his desk. "You're allowed to feel both. Healing isn't a straight staircase. You're building something, piece by piece." She exhaled. She needed to hear that, needed someone not to rush her steps. One morning in late March, Mrs. Chen found Claire in the garden, sitting with a mug of tea, her gaze unfocused. "It's been a year," Claire said quietly. "A year since I left." Mrs. Chen sat beside her, warm and solid. "Leaving is an act of bravery. Don't underestimate it. Sometimes I fear I'll always be looking over my shoulder." Mrs. Chen squeezed her hand. "Fear can be a stubborn guest, but with time, it stops screaming and starts to whisper instead." That night, Adrian cooked dinner, a rare occasion, and the soufflé wasn't perfect. But when he set it before Claire with a sheepish grin, she laughed, a real deep belly laugh. "I needed that," Claire said, pressing a hand to her chest. "I think I did too," Adrian replied. A beat of silence followed. Claire reached out, covering his hand with hers. "Thank you for giving me space, for not rushing me, for making room for me here even on the messy days." "I wouldn't have it any other way," Adrian said, the honesty in his tone grounding her. "Before we go on, tell me in the comments, has there ever been a day in your life that marked a turning point? Where are you watching from today? And don't forget, subscribe if you haven't already, so you never miss a story like this." They fell into a pattern, gentle as the changing seasons. Claire's confidence returned in steps, not leaps. She offered ideas during staff meetings, started a book club for the housekeeping team, and even volunteered at a local elementary school. Adrian watched all of this with quiet admiration, awe even. He noticed the way the staff responded to her, how her warmth and absence of condescension opened doors. Some evenings, they cooked together. Others, they took long walks outside, swapping stories about their childhoods, the good and the hard. Those moments built intimacy, not a romance forged in grand gestures, but one crafted in trust and time. Spring became summer. Claire finished her semester and enrolled for more classes, each step away from her old life, making the future seem possible. One night, Adrian took her to dinner, a real date, complete with nerves on both sides. She wore a soft blue dress, hair loose around her shoulders. He opened her car door as if she was precious, and for the first time in a long time, she believed maybe she was. At a quiet table by the window, Claire hesitated. "I haven't done this in years." "Me neither," Adrian admitted. "Not like this, not where it mattered." They talked about dreams, about fears, about what happiness could look like when not shadowed by old pain. "I love how you make this world feel." Adrian's confession was soft, but it rang in her ears. She reached across the table, steady for once. "I want to be brave, for both of us." He squeezed her hand. For a while, the past seemed far away, and hope didn't feel so dangerous. Let us know in the comments if you believe that genuine love can grow out of kindness, and, please, share this story if you know someone who needs to hear it. But reality is persistent. Late June brought with it a threat, a letter, unsigned, slipped beneath the estate gate, words cut from magazines. It was classic intimidation, and for the first time since winter, Adrian saw the fear return to Claire's eyes. He immediately increased security. Guards watched the perimeter, staff were briefed, the police were notified. "It could be nothing," Claire said, voice wavering. Adrian was resolute. "Or it could be something. Either way, you're not facing it alone." Sharing her fear made it smaller, the burden lessened by transparency and safety planning. That night, as they sat together in the living room, Claire leaned her head on Adrian's shoulder. "You've changed my view of the world. I want to believe it's safe. Some days, I do." He kissed her hair. "We'll get there, step by step." Chapter 13. Stepping Forward. When the next semester started, Claire was nervous, old trauma still echoing in her body. But she showed up, refusing to let fear dictate her future. Adrian was there in small ways and big, driving her to class on anxious days, letting her walk alone when she felt strong enough. Her ex made no further contact. The authorities watched for him, taking the threat seriously. Bit by bit, peace returned. Claire's first faculty evaluation described her as remarkably empathetic, gifted at helping students feel seen. She came home glowing, the praise settling somewhere deep. Adrian celebrated with a bottle of sparkling cider and a quiet night under the stars. "Every milestone is worth commemorating," he said. They clinked glasses. For the first time, Claire let herself imagine a life not marked by before and after, but by now and what could come next. One afternoon, Claire received an invitation. She'd been nominated for a volunteer award at the elementary school. She almost declined, afraid of standing in the spotlight. Adrian encouraged her. "Don't let the past dictate who you are today. You've earned every bit of this recognition." She went, and on stage, saw Adrian in the crowd. When she spoke, her voice was steady. "I used to think surviving was enough. Now I believe thriving is possible even after the darkest nights." The audience applauded. Claire saw the tears in Adrian's eyes. In that moment, she realized she wasn't surviving anymore. She was living. Drop a heart in the comments if you believe everyone deserves a new beginning. And remember to like and subscribe for more stories about courage and hope. Their love deepened, built on trust, patience, and laughter more than declarations. They celebrated holidays together. Adrian watched with delight as Claire filled the house with color and warmth each season. She still went to therapy, still had hard days, but they were fewer and further between. With time, her scars faded into memory, a history she visited but no longer lived in. Teaching became her life's calling. She mentored students who saw in her a model of resilience. Adrian built a scholarship in her name, never announcing it, simply funding hope in the background. On the anniversary of her leaving, she and Adrian planted a tree together in the estate garden, a living symbol of everything she'd reclaimed. There was still risk, still the memory of darkness, but the light was winning. 2 years had passed since Adrian knocked on that apartment door. 2 years of slow, steady healing progress, measured not in days but in moments of peace, laughter that came easier, and nights uninterrupted by nightmares. Claire graduated with her teaching degree in May, finishing top of her class. Adrian sat in the audience, pride radiating from him as she walked across the stage. When she returned to her seat, diploma in hand, she caught his eye. He mouthed, "I'm so proud of you." She mouthed back, "Thank you for believing in me." That night, at a small celebration dinner with Mrs. Chen and the estate staff, Claire stood to speak. 2 years ago, I didn't think I'd survive another month. I thought my life was over, that I'd never be anything more than what I'd been told. I was broken, worthless, disposable. Her voice wavered but held steady. And then someone showed me that kindness wasn't weakness, that strength could be gentle, that love, real love, doesn't demand you shrink, it invites you to grow. She looked directly at Adrian. "You saved my life, not by rescuing me, but by giving me space to save myself, and I will spend the rest of my life grateful for that gift." The room erupted in applause, but Adrian's eyes never left hers. Later, as they walked through the garden under a sky full of stars, Adrian stopped beneath the willow tree they'd planted together. "Claire, I need to ask you something." She turned, her heart suddenly racing. He took her hands in his expression serious. "I know we've built something incredible, something I never expected, and I don't want to rush you or pressure you, but I need you to know this isn't temporary for me. You're not temporary for me." Tears gathered in Claire's eyes. "You're not temporary for me either," she whispered. "Then stay," Adrian said softly. "Not as a guest, not as someone I'm helping. Stay as my partner, as someone I love, as someone I want to build a life with." She let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. "Are you asking me to move in? Officially? I'm asking you to make this your home, our home, if you want it." Claire searched his face, seeing nothing but sincerity and love. "I want it," she said, her voice breaking with emotion. "I want all of it. With you." He pulled her close, and they stood there beneath the tree, holding each other as the night embraced them. It wasn't a marriage proposal, not yet, but it was a promise, a commitment, a declaration that what they'd built was real, lasting, and worth fighting for. The summer that followed was transformative. Claire accepted a full-time teaching position at the elementary school where she'd volunteered. Her classroom became a haven for children who needed someone to see them, to believe in them the way Adrian had believed in her. She decorated it with bright colors and books, creating a space that whispered, "You are safe here. You are valued here." One afternoon, a shy girl named Ruby approached her desk. "Miss Donovan, "Can I ask you something?" "Of course, sweetheart." "Were you ever scared? Like, really scared?" Claire knelt down to Ruby's level, recognizing the fear in those young eyes. "Yes," she said honestly. "I was very scared once, but I learned that being scared doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human, and asking for help when you're scared, that's one of the bravest things you can do." Ruby's eyes filled with tears. "Someone at home hurts my mom sometimes." Claire's heart broke and blazed simultaneously. She knew exactly what to do. By the end of the day, Ruby and her mother were connected with resources, shelter, legal aid, counseling. Claire sat with them both, sharing just enough of her own story to offer hope without making it about her. "You can survive this," Claire told Ruby's mother, "and more than survive, you can heal. You can build something beautiful on the other side." When Claire came home that evening, emotionally exhausted but purposeful, Adrian was waiting. "Tough day?" he asked, already pouring her tea. She told him everything, and when she finished, he pulled her close. "You're changing lives, Claire. You know that, right?" "I'm trying to give what was given to me," she said simply. "That's love," Adrian said. "Real, powerful, world-changing love. If you've ever felt powerless and found your strength again, drop a comment below, and please share this story with someone who needs to hear it today." In September, Claire received news that her ex-husband was being released from prison. The call came from the district attorney's office, a routine notification for victims. Claire's hands shook as she hung up. Adrian found her sitting on the edge of their bed now, not just hers staring at nothing. "He's getting out," she said flatly. Adrian's jaw tightened, but his voice remained calm. "When?" "Next month. They said the restraining order is still in effect, and he'll be on parole with strict conditions." But you're scared." She nodded, ashamed of the fear. "I shouldn't be. I'm not that person anymore. I'm stronger now. I have a career, a home, people who love me. He shouldn't have any power over me." Adrian sat beside her, taking her hand. "Fear doesn't mean you're weak, Claire. It means you're smart. He hurt you, deeply. It's okay to be afraid of that happening again." "What if he comes here?" she whispered. "Then he'll be arrested immediately for violating the restraining order, and he'll find himself back in prison faster than he can blink." "What if—" "Claire," Adrian turned her to face him. "I will not let him hurt you. The staff won't let him hurt you. The law won't let him hurt you. And most importantly, you won't let him hurt you. You're not the same woman he knew. You're not powerless anymore." She leaned into him, drawing strength from his certainty. "I need to prepare," she said after a moment. "I need to make sure I'm ready, just in case." Over the next few weeks, they reinforced security, updated legal protections, and Claire met with her therapist more frequently. She also did something she hadn't done before. She joined a support group for domestic violence survivors. Sitting in that circle of women, hearing their stories, sharing her own, Claire realized something profound. She wasn't broken. She was a survivor. And survivors carried wisdom that could light the way for others still trapped in darkness. Br Idges DVC +1. October arrived with cool winds and falling leaves. Claire's ex was released, and for 2 weeks, she held her breath. But nothing happened. No letters, no phone calls, no appearances at the school or the estate. At first, Claire waited for the other shoe to drop. Then, slowly, she began to exhale. Adrian's private investigator confirmed that her ex had moved to another state, a condition of his parole. He'd taken a job, enrolled in mandatory counseling, and by all accounts, was keeping his distance. "Maybe he finally realized he lost," Adrian said one evening as they sat by the fire. "Or maybe he just found someone else to control," Claire said quietly. Adrian squeezed her hand. "Either way, he's not your problem anymore. You're free, Claire. Truly free." The word settled over her like a blessing. Free. She tested it, turning it over in her mind, feeling for cracks or catches. But it held. She was free. Christmas came, bringing with it the first snow of the season. The estate transformed into something from a storybook: white lights, evergreen garlands, and a towering tree in the great room. Claire had never experienced a Christmas like this, full of warmth, laughter, and people who genuinely cared about her. On Christmas Eve, after the staff had gone home and the house was quiet, Adrian led Claire to the library. A fire crackled in the hearth, and on the mantel sat 2 stockings, one embroidered with her name. "You made me a stocking," she whispered, tears gathering. "Your family," Adrian said simply. "You have been for a long time." They sat together on the couch, sipping hot chocolate, and Adrian pulled out a small wrapped box. "I know we said no gifts, but Adrian," Claire laughed, "we both know you weren't going to follow that rule." He grinned, sheepish. She opened the box to find a delicate silver bracelet engraved with a single word: brave. "Because that's what you are," Adrian said softly. "Every single day." Claire fastened it around her wrist, the metal cool and solid against her skin. "I love it. I love you." The words came easily now, without fear. "I love you too," Adrian said, "more than I thought I was capable of." They sat in comfortable silence, and then Adrian shifted, reaching into his pocket. "There's one more thing." He pulled out a small velvet box, and Claire's breath caught. "Adrian, before you panic," he said quickly, "this isn't what you think. Or maybe it is. I don't know. I'm terrible at this." She laughed through her tears. He opened the box to reveal a simple, elegant ring, a single diamond on a platinum band. "Claire Donovan, I'm not asking you to marry me tonight. I know we're still building this, still learning what it means to be us, but I'm asking if you'd be willing to, someday, when you're ready, say yes to forever with me." She stared at him, at this man who'd given her time, space, safety, and love without demanding anything in return. "Are you asking me to be engaged? To be engaged?" she said, smiling through tears. "I guess I am," he admitted. "Is that ridiculous?" "It's perfect," she whispered. "And yes, someday, when I'm ready, I will absolutely say yes to forever with you." He slipped the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly, just like everything else about them. Drop a heart emoji if you believe in love that's patient, kind, and worth the wait. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that remind us hope is real. Spring returned, and with it, new life. Claire's classroom buzzed with energy as her students prepared for their end-of-year presentations. Ruby, the girl who'd confided in Claire months ago, stood at the front of the room, her voice steady and strong. "My hero is Miss Donovan," Ruby said, "because she taught me that being scared doesn't mean you have to stay stuck. She showed me that asking for help is brave, not weak, and she helped my mom and me find safety when we needed it most." Claire's eyes filled with tears. After class, Ruby hugged her tightly. "Thank you for saving us, Miss Donovan." Claire knelt down, looking into those young, hopeful eyes. "You saved yourself, sweetheart. I just held the door open." The same words Adrian had once said to her. The cycle of healing, passing forward. A year later, on a perfect June afternoon, Claire and Adrian married in the garden beneath the willow tree. It was small, just close friends, the estate staff who'd become family, and a few of Claire's students and their parents. Mrs. Chen cried through the entire ceremony. Claire wore a simple white dress, her hair loose, a crown of wildflowers in her hair. Adrian wore a suit but couldn't stop smiling. When it was time for vows, Claire spoke first, her voice clear and strong. "Adrian, you taught me what love really looks like. Not control disguised as care, but genuine partnership. Not demands, but invitations. Not fear, but safety. You gave me space to heal, time to grow, and the freedom to become who I was always meant to be. I promise to love you with that same patience, that same grace, for the rest of our lives." Adrian's voice was thick with emotion when he responded. "Claire, you walked into my life broken, or so you thought. But I saw something different. I saw someone fighting to survive, to hope, to believe in better days. Watching you heal, watching you reclaim your strength, watching you become the incredible woman standing before me now, has been the greatest privilege of my life. I promise to protect you, support you, and love you not because you need saving, but because choosing you is the easiest choice I've ever made." There wasn't a dry eye in the garden. When they kissed, sealing promises made and kept, the small gathering erupted in applause. As they walked back down the aisle hand in hand, Claire caught sight of the tree they'd planted years ago, now tall and strong, its branches reaching toward the sky. Growth takes time, healing takes time, but both are possible, with patience and love. 5 years after Adrian knocked on that apartment door, Claire stood in front of a conference room full of educators and advocates. She was the keynote speaker at a domestic violence awareness event, sharing her story publicly for the first time. Adrian sat in the front row, exactly where he'd always been, supporting her, believing in her, loving her. "I'm not here to tell you that surviving abuse is easy," Claire began, "or that healing follows a straight line. It doesn't. Some days you take 2 steps forward, other days you take 1 back. But every step forward or back is part of the journey. She paused, looking out at faces that reflected her own past fear, hope, exhaustion, determination. I'm here to tell you that you are not broken. You are not damaged beyond repair. You are not defined by what was done to you. You are survivors. You are warriors. And you deserve safety, peace, love, and every good thing this world has to offer. Her voice strengthened. And to those who love survivors, thank you. Thank you for being patient, for giving space, for understanding that healing isn't linear, for seeing us not as projects to fix, but as people worthy of respect and partnership. When she finished, the room rose in a standing ovation. Afterward, a young woman approached Claire, tears streaming down her face. "I'm still in it," she whispered, "still with him. But hearing you, it makes me think maybe I could leave, maybe I could survive." Claire took her hands. "You can, and you will, when you're ready. And when that day comes, there will be people like me, like the advocates here, ready to help you rebuild." She handed the woman a card with resources, contact information, hope. "You're not alone," Claire said. "You never were. If this story moved you, please share it. You never know who needs to hear it. And subscribe for more stories about courage, healing, and love that changes everything." That fall, Claire and Adrian received news that would change their lives again. Claire was pregnant. They sat together in the doctor's office, staring at the ultrasound image, overwhelmed with emotion. "We're going to be parents," Claire whispered. Adrian squeezed her hand, his eyes wet. "We're going to be parents." That night, lying in bed with Adrian